Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Vicky Townsend, and I'm the founder and president of Divorce Right. And we provide managerial training for HR professionals and company supervisors so you can recognize divorce in your employees and get them the immediate support. And we provide divorce coaching, case management, and divorce mediation services, providing the care and guidance and direction that your divorcing employees so desperately need. Divorce is a huge disruptor, not only to the employee going through it, but to the company they work for. And our mediators and our coaches have a very unique 360-degree perspective of the entire divorce puzzle. They have a deep understanding of the legal, financial, and emotional aspects of divorce, and they can handle even the highest conflict of cases with compassion and professionalism. Our mediators and coaches are trained to look at the entire picture, helping your employees make good decisions based on their goals and their expectations. And we give them hope for a better future. So if you're in HR, if you're a benefits manager or a total rewards manager or an HR benefits provider or consultant, please reach out to me and see if adding our suite of solutions is a good fit for your business. Even if you have a current legal plan in place for your employees, that's not enough to support them through divorce. And it may actually be making things worse. So reach out to us today. And today we're going to be talking about the mediation process and why it's a good option for first responders, but also for your regular employees that go to work at a corporation. So during a divorce, we really like that mediation is the first choice. And so today we're going to be talking about that with our special guest, family law attorney and mediator, Jackie Harounian. Let me tell you a little bit about Jackie. She's the managing partner and sole shareholder of Wisselman Harounian Family Law. The firm was established in 1976 and is a recognized leader in the field of matrimonial and family law for over 50 years. Jackie began the firm as a law student. Her educational background includes Columbia College, Hofstra Law School, and SUNY New York. Jackie's unique multidisciplinary and multicultural background, including a graduate degree in psychology and family systems therapy, enables her to adeptly adjust complex divorce and custody matters with a holistic and compassionate approach. Although she is highly experienced in trial and appellate advocate, she believes that a negotiated settlement is almost always the best strategy, especially if there are minor children or co-parenting is desired. Jackie speaks Farsi and Hebrew and is extensively experienced in Eastern and Middle Eastern religious and cultural divorce matters, and is our educator on religious divorces in our program for HR managers called Manage Right, Divorce Awareness and Sensitivity Training. So thank you, Jackie, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for that amazing introduction. And I'm really excited to talk with you about all the options. And the best option is mediation for a lot of people for all kinds of reasons. And of course, we all know the special challenges that first responders have. They have unique issues, unique things they're concerned about. And this is a great topic. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm so happy. And I just love you and trust you so much in all of these matters. And so let's talk about saving these people kind of from themselves. Let's talk about a cost-effective way to divorce for first responders and everybody else. I know that the brand of divorce is you better lawyer up. You better get a bulldog, right? You better get a shark. But let's talk about mediation versus that litigation.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand when there's a breakup, and the whole psychology of divorce, especially in the United States, is you've got to just fight, and you've got to hire a gladiator who's going to go in the courtroom and really cause some pain. And that is an understandable part of the psychology of divorce, that feeling that you need to have a strong advocate, and that's the only way you're going to get the best outcome. People are convinced that they're going to go into a courtroom, and just like on TV, in a couple of hours, it's all resolved. The reality is extremely different. And the bottom line is, the most important thing is, people have to realize they have to be an educated consumer, because divorce is a business. There are people that are going to hopefully be helpful to you, but also there are different cost factors, and a lot of it depends on the choices you make as a person going through the process, a person who has a family, who's afraid of what's going to happen in the future, who is emotional, angry, sad, and you have to exercise your options in a smart way. And I always say when I talk to people, because I'm the managing partner of a firm, we have a high volume of cases here, and we certainly do a lot of litigation and trials and all of that stuff. And boy, do we make a lot of money on that stuff. But when I speak to clients that I feel are at the beginning stages and receptive to considering what is truly best for them, not for my law firm, for them, I always include mediation as one of the choices, because mediation truly is the least stressful, least costly, and even the quickest way to go through the process. So, those are all important things that at some point you might really be happy you went through a process that feels a little friendlier, isn't quite so adversarial, especially if you have children, and is not going to cost you all that much. But again, there are some reasons why you need to go to court, and we can go into that if we have time. And also just the speed of mediation, because you're really dealing with one usually lawyer mediator. I prepare all the papers. Some mediators don't do papers, so there's different ways of doing
Right.
it. But bottom line, a mediator is sitting down with both of you or in a Zoom like this one, trying to find that middle path. What can parties agree on? And they might be surprised that there are many things that they can agree on. If it's a more difficult case, a skilled mediator can help them even resolve challenging issues. So the first step is to be open to this idea that I don't have to hire a lawyer and go fight tooth and nail in court. I can have a conversation outside of court with a trained mediator. And if you can't do mediation, the middle ground between mediation and litigation is having a lawyer and trying to keep your case out of court. Having your lawyer talk to the other lawyer. There can be a series of settlement meetings. It's not a bad alternative to mediation, but we're here to talk about mediation, which truly is a friendly process, working usually with one mediator and trying to reach an agreement. And the truth is, Vicky, it's always better after the fact in a divorce when you have been part of the agreement. It hasn't been forced on you by a judge. It's not something that you're going to feel like, I don't agree with this. It's something that you collaborated with, you agree on. Before you sign, you should have a lawyer probably review it. But it's a comfortable process that builds trust. And it's almost like everyone has a shared goal. We have a problem. We need to separate our assets. We need to agree on custody. We need to agree on support, and we have someone we both trust who's going to help us get to that goal. And it's a very, very different feeling from litigation or having two lawyers where the wife's lawyer's job is to reach for the top number in support, and the husband's lawyer's job is to share as little as possible from the assets. So that that dynamic sometimes can get you a great result, but it can also mean, I'm not exaggerating, many, many years of court proceedings. two
Yeah.
years 3 years, 5 years. I mean, most people are broke by then.
Well,
And
if I can just interject, what
yeah.
I love and always want people to understand is that you can start with mediation. And let's get all of the things out of the way that we can agree on, right? Like
Mhm.
who gets the car, who gets the boat, who gets the motorcycle, who gets grandma's china, all of
Correct.
those kinds of things, the things that we're in agreement on, and then save those maybe one or two things. Typically, it's what? Custody and finances. Am I
Yeah,
right?
it could be. It depends. I mean, every case is unique because every family is unique. But usually, people that are receptive to mediation, and this is maybe half the group, is actually receptive to sitting down and talking with someone neutral. That's usually a nice group of people. They're at least willing to sit down and talk. So let's give them, assume that they're somewhat reasonable. They're willing to sit down and talk. That's a good starting place. You are going to get a very large group of people, maybe half, that will never, ever sit in a room or discuss settling anything with their ex, even if they know it's in their best interest. They simply don't care. They're too angry. They're too motivated to get a better outcome. They
Right.
think they're going to end up with more than half the assets when in most states, I practice in New York, we're talking about a 50-50 presumption for most cases. They just are a little bit, it's a little bit of magical thinking. They think they're going to get the best lawyer and somehow they're going to walk out of a courtroom with victory. And those are very rare outcomes.
Few and far between, right?
Correct.
People see, and I don't know what the uh, how that brand became so popular, because you can spend $100,000 chasing $90,000.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I can't tell you how many couples that I've seen have spent, $5,000
Yeah.
fighting over a couch,
Oh, yeah,
over
yeah.
a
People can
couch.
be motivated if they don't have lawyers or a mediator to tell them, really, is this worth doing? They will be convinced that it's a very good thing to do because they're caught up in the heat of the moment, and it's all about adrenaline and that fear response.
And
Very
retribution,
primitive.
right?
I mean, divorce used to
Retribution,
be,
pain.
in the 50s and 60s, divorce was quite rare. I mean, most people stayed married. And the people that did get divorced, there's a stigma attached to it. And that's why we had grounds for divorce for so many years. So when there's a stigma that you've either cheated or that, you're mentally ill or that you've abandoned your spouse, there is those negative grounds and there are a lot of motivation to fight. We're
Right,
now, fast forward into, 2024, we're in most cases no fault divorce. In most cases, two working parents. Uh, and most of all, there's a lot of ground rules to resolve issues and just get into the first responders. Most often, it's their pension that they're concerned
right,
about, and
always.
and certain income issues that they're concerned about. And so there's a lot of information available if you have an experienced mediator or lawyer that can help you resolve how the facts of your case are going to work with the law in your jurisdiction. And you have to be open to hearing that and understanding that there's a certain outcome we're all predicting here. How much do you want to fight to get there? Unfortunately, there are some people that are very primed to fight. There's just too much anger and vindictiveness at play, and they're just not in a hurry to get divorced. And they want to give their ex, hell, so that they can experience some of the hell they're feeling. So they're
Right,
just very averse to settling. Again, mediation is not going to be for everyone. For those people that are receptive to it, they will be surprised. And I get way more referrals from mediated couples that walk out singing my praises. They can't believe their case is already resolved than I
mm,
do for the litigation cases where I make way, way more money. Um, and those people usually walk out hating their lawyers and
right,
very happy with the outcome because it's a
right.
pure victory.
Well,
They
let me ask you. Let's talk to right now the captains, the chiefs of these first responders that see that that maybe one of their men or women on their team is going through a divorce. What would you say is the biggest argument for them to try mediation? And let's assume for a moment that they're in one of those marriages where there's betrayal, there's anger, there's hate, there's this, right? What
Yeah.
could the argument be to get them to consider mediation?
I mean, there's a very, very big mental health component to why mediation is just a healthier process because you're agreeing to focus on the issues in the case without emotion involved, and you're agreeing to use your rational brain to agree on issues like custody. What's best for the children, not what's best for me, or how do I hurt my ex? You have to be ready and receptive to have that rational thought process. The same thing with support issues and with asset issues. So if I was running a company or dealing with, a group of first responders, I would want to make sure that that person that's going through a divorce process know that a lot of these feelings they're feeling are temporary. They will eventually dissipate. There's a very big emotional charge at the beginning of a case, and then it tends to become normalized and you start exchanging financial documents, and then you're in a different phase of the case. So the important thing is to give support to the employees that are going through it.
Right.
If they're really deteriorating, getting angrier, drinking too much, I mean, this is a time to really hopefully step in. People should go to lawyers when they're not angry, when maybe they've processed some of the feelings of what they're going through, because a lot of times divorce is actually a mutual decision. It doesn't feel good to be the one that's left behind. It never feels good to be blindsided by adultery or by an announcement that I'm leaving you. But I always find that when I've been doing this for almost 30 years, when I'm dealing with a client who's very unhappy for whatever reason, it's almost always their spouse is also pretty unhappy.
Right.
And it takes time to recognize that this is not a marriage that's been doing so great for a period of time. We're both unhappy. There are problems here. And it's a very brave thing to actually say, I want to get a divorce. This is not working. And sometimes the other side quickly realizes the same thing, you know, which is why I'm a big fan of marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Marriage counseling can be a place to make a mutual decision. We tried to fix our marriage, it didn't work. Marriage counseling can be a place where both parties agree and recognize that, you know what, this is probably going to be a separation or a divorce, and one of us needs to start the process. So there's a lot of messaging that goes on when you start a process. So if you've made a mutual decision, or maybe you've had a discussion, our marriage is ending, um, it's not a bad thing to say, listen, do you think you might want to consider mediation? Do you want to try to keep this case out of court? I'm agreeing that we should raise our kids together. I don't really want to make our kids involved in this. Would you agree that we could sit down and talk about it? So that would be a great way to start any case. As opposed to, this is the other side of it. I'm going to take you to the cleaners. You're going to be out on the
Right.
street. You're never going to get a penny from my pension. I'm going to get every dollar of your paycheck. Or I'm going to quit my job so you won't get support. You're an unfit mother. I'm going to take the kids away from you. Our kids are teenagers. They prefer me to you anyway. Or let's start calling the police on each other. I mean, it's like lighting a match to a can of gasoline. You can easily inflame and things escalate. And next thing you know, you need a litigator because there's a court date coming up or someone got arrested and you're off to the races. It's going to be an expensive case. So it takes that measure of responsibility and self control to say, I'm going to start off telling my spouse that I used to love, I want to get through this with at least damage as possible on both of us and our children. Why shouldn't we talk to a mediator? Do you want to pick a mediator? Why don't you come up with a few names? I'll pick one from the names you choose. Or do you want me to choose a mediator? A lot of them have free consultations. Let's go hear what they have to say.
Right.
Usually, mediators want both parties as part of the first meeting because there has to be this sense of I'm fair. I haven't spoken to one side versus the other. So I like to do my consultation, which is free, and most mediators have a free consultation, not all. And I'll talk to both parties together. And I'll give them a version of what I just spoke about, why mediation is so great. And whether you choose me as a mediator or not, at least consider the option of mediating.
So what are the key roles and responsibilities of a mediator during a divorce mediation sessions that differs from a litigated case?
So, with a mediator, you're doing sessions usually with the parties together, you're working through issues together. It's going to be a very different conversation if the parties are already separated. It's going to be a different conversation if there's issues with children that have to be dealt with. But let's assume it's early on in the case. The parties live together. They own a house. They have retirement assets. They're dealing with children. They're both working. The starting point is, is this going to be a case where you have shared custody or do you have in mind one parent would have primary? And surprisingly, a lot of times people are exactly on the same page.
Right.
They've already discussed one party moving out. They've already discussed that because of work reasons or work schedules, really only one party can have primary custody or one party works from home.
Right.
So it's surprising how much you can actually sense that some of these issues are going to fall into place very quickly. Other times you have one party that's adamant about 50-50 custody and the other one is not ready to be open to it. And so I have to work with that couple to see, can we get on the same page about 50-50 custody? How does that interact with support issues? More and more, I'm finding mothers who were very resistant to 50-50 custody for a long time. They're really liking it. They like having a lot of free time. They like being able to work on their careers or do a side business when the children are with their father. With younger children, it's a little bit different. But, once children are school age, and because joint custody is becoming really, by word of mouth, becoming more popular in New York, I am seeing people more open to the idea. And that's a perfect case for mediation
Yeah, I
because a lot
agree.
of things stems from there if
I
you can work out custody.
So let me ask you, and as we kind of wrap this up, so that people can, hopefully what you've been able to show to the people that are going to be making these kinds of decisions on behalf of their employees to try and urge them into mediation. Let's talk about, what does the average mediation, since you do litigation, what does the average mediation save in as far as costs are concerned? Because we can see that it saves in that mental.
Oh yeah,
Right,
it saves a
right,
lot. I mean, see, because we're like a one-stop shop, we do everything. Mediation cases for us, the retainers are similar to an uncontested divorce. So in New York, you have about 250 to 350 in filing fees and some just required fees for the divorce filing. Then there's the preparation of an agreement and all kinds of other ancillary documents that go with an uncontested divorce. With mediation, usually we're going to have a couple of Zoom meetings or in-person meetings. And it really depends on the budget of the couple. I have cases where there's a little bit of uncertainty about what the assets are. And so we have to start with sworn financial affidavits, just
right,
like in another divorce with two lawyers. And that builds up trust, because if you're swearing to your list of assets and debts, and maybe I'll tell the parties, do you want to exchange some bank statements? Take a look, because all kinds of, in some cases, there's withdrawals and both parties didn't agree to it, or loans against the home equity, or credit card bills. There is some of that is part of some of these cases. And in others, there's none of that, because the parties have been already sort of separating their finances for a while, already have separate credit cards and bank accounts. So again, every case is unique. As a mediator, I want to for sure highlight potential issues. So if I have a case where there's a business owner, let's say it's the wife, and the husband has never looked at a tax return, and is really in the dark because he's an artist and doesn't know what's going on with the money, that's a situation where I have to make sure that he has looked at the bank statements. He knows what's going on with the income. I want to make sure that not one party is not taking advantage of the other. So I have to be sensitive to that, because I do have a role in making sure the outcome is fair and not one side kind of bullying the other.
right. I think that that's
The price range is for sure way less than a contested case, because the goal is to reach an agreement on an uncontested basis, sign off on it, never meet a judge, never work with subpoenas and discovery requests. A lot of it is quite informal, because I'll tell the parties, why don't you just email things to each other? And if you have an issue, let me know. So that keeps the cost down.
It
Uh,
keeps the cost down, it keeps the time down. One of
mhm.
the things that we talk about are the 5 biggest productivity suckers that divorce causes in a company, right?
Yeah,
And the first is absences, right? So there's not a lot of absences going to meet with attorneys for months and
correct.
even years, and so that you've saved them that time. Distractions, that's another big one. There's not a lot of time that's being spent going back and forth, answering, taking phone calls,
Yeah.
talking to financial advisors, talking to litigators, talking to this one, going to, judges, all of that stuff. So that's taken care of. Presenteeism, which is that where they're sitting there, right? They're physically there, but they are emotionally, mentally somewhere else,
Mhm.
because they're no longer worried about how this is going to go. They know how this is going to go. And
Sure.
then, the other ones are errors, right? A distracted employee that's worried about whether they're going to be able to maintain their house or keep their children. They're going to make mistakes at work. Which, customer service, if you're, or sales or whatever, it impacts them. And,
Yeah.
particularly with first responders. And then lastly, 10% of divorcing employees quit. Right? That's a very expensive cost to
Sure.
an employer. So if you're, as an employee, if you're out there, and this sounds like something that you want to maybe add to your services, we here at Divorce Right do divorce coaching and we do divorce mediation. And we do that at a substantial savings. So if that sounds like something, this sounds like something you'd like to add to your list of offerings, it is a win-win for your company. I promise you that it will save your company more money than it actually saves for your employee, that it actually costs your employee. Divorce has always been more expensive for corporations than they realize. So we're here to help you with that. Jackie, thank you so much for this conversation today. I'm hoping that we can continue to get the word out about the value that mediation brings to everyone, including their employers. So thank you. Jackie, would you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, of course. My website is www.lawjaw.com, LAWJAW.com. And you can reach me by phone at 516-773-8300.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody that's listening today. We're going to be putting this on our website. We'll send it out in some newsletters. But thank you so much for watching today and have a great one. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.